Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a brand new edition of T2N Live. This will be the first time with me using this format. I'm actually, if everything's going right, it's kind of hard to tell, but if everything's going right, I'm actually live streaming to both Facebook and YouTube. So if you guys are watching on either one of those platforms, give me a comment and let me know that you're there, because I'm actually watching a screen that will let me put the comments on screen, but I can't watch the actual browser windows when I do that. So leave me a comment, let me know you're there, and then I can say hi to you. All right, let's get into the meat of the show. Okay, as the title says, we're going to discuss 3 common weight loss myths. All right, the first of which is that well, actually, before I do that, let me just say, if you are watching on YouTube and you just happen to stumble across it because you were looking for live video, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, so that way you get notified when I either go live or put new episodes of my podcast on, things of that nature. Okay, so now let's get back to the show here. Let's get back to the show flow. The first topic we're going to discuss is that health is determined by weight. Okay. The reason that that's a myth is because, first of all, when you look at weight and you think about the way that people weigh themselves, and then they're like, okay, well, I'm 50 pounds overweight for my height and my age and all this good stuff and my gender, so that means that I'm not healthy. And everybody uses BMI as a guide. Okay. Now, let me tell you, BMI, body mass index, it is inaccurate. And the reason that it's inaccurate is because it does not take into account muscle mass. Okay. Also doesn't take into account bone density. Some people's bones are more dense than others, therefore they're heavier. So what you wind up getting is a skewed view of what your overall health is if you're going by BMI. You are better off to use like a DEXA scan, an in-body scan, something that will differentiate between what is fat, what is muscle, what is bone. In-body scans and DEXA scans both do that. So, keep that in mind as you're going forward when you're trying to determine, well, is my weight okay? Because some people are only like 10, 15 pounds overweight. And when they're looking at that situation, they're like, I don't know if I need to diet or not. Okay. It's real simple. Visceral fat. This is what you need to keep in mind. The fat in your midsection, in your torso. Okay. That is the most dangerous fat on your body. Plain and simple. Okay. And the reason I say that is it pushes on the internal organs. Okay, because it's all in your midsection, all up in your grill, so to speak. And it's visceral fat has been linked to causation of heart disease, all kinds of problems with the liver, you name it, it's there. So, oh, cool. Thanks there, Dr. Elo. Glad to see that everything's working fine over on YouTube. All right, let's see. I'm playing around with these. Bear with me, guys. I'm playing around with this whole comment thing. I've never used it before. All right. So there's that, and there's that. Okay. So now let's get back to things. So to sum that little topic up, yeah. Your health is not necessarily determined by your weight. And the reason for that is, granted, I'm a little heavier than what I used to be right now. But when I was at 249 pounds, I was at 15% body fat, and I was not overweight. I have a fair amount of muscle mass. I have fairly dense bones. So 249 pounds for me at 6'2" is a healthy weight. So you need to keep that in mind. Just don't go by, if you go to the doctor and, you get those little slips when you leave the doctor and it says, your heart rate was this, your blood pressure was this, and all this stuff. And then they always put your BMI on there because they take your height and they take your weight and they put those two together. And that's how you wind up coming up with BMI. That's all it is. Height and weight. Okay. Doesn't take into account anything else. So don't pay attention to that stuff. If you hear it from the doctor or whatnot, or you get it on your little slip, just don't pay attention to it. Okay. Because it's It's information, but it's not accurate information. You're better off to get a in-body test or a DEXA scan or something of that nature that gives you a better idea of what your lean body mass is. You'll see that abbreviated as LBM. Okay? So now let's get into part number 2. Oh, hi, Kayla. My buddy Kayla's on here. How you doing, Kayla? You didn't know I was live? No, you didn't mess up my flow at all, girl. Didn't mess it up at all. Yeah, she was actually texting me. She didn't realize that I was live. But that's fine. I'm glad you're here to join me, Caleb. All right, so let's get into the second part for sure. It's kind of frustrating when you're doing all this stuff at once by yourself. I need an engineer. I'm taking applications. All right, the second topic I want to discuss tonight is that cheat meals or cheat days help with weight loss. I put it under the category of myths because it's a very, very tricky subject, okay? Now, the fact of the matter is, when you've been dieting for a long period of time, a cheat meal or a cheat day does raise your leptin levels, and leptin is the hormone that controls satiety, which means if your leptin levels are low, you don't feel full, okay? So by the cheat meals, reset your leptin levels back up to the normal range, so you're gonna have those hormones flowing and you're gonna feel fuller quicker, okay? They also decrease another hormone called ghrelin. Ghrelin is the hormone in the body that decreases your appetite. Okay, so the more ghrelin you have in your system, the hungrier you are. So you can see how using a cheat meal or a cheat day can be beneficial in that respect because it kind of resets your hunger hormones. Okay, the danger with cheat meals or cheat days, and I much prefer if you're going to do it, do a meal. Don't do a whole day because it's so easy to just blow everything out of proportion. Okay. If you're going to have a cheat meal or cheat day, don't overdo it. Make sure that you account for it. Okay. Like say, if I'm going to do a cheat meal, say I'm going to do a cheat meal on Sunday, my kids are coming over and I know that I'm going to have, I'm going to have hamburgers and hot dogs, probably some potato chips, things of that nature. Okay. I account for it. If I'm going to have potato chips, I'm going to have a certain amount of potato chips. It's going to be weighed out or measured out somehow. And then you can deal with not overeating, okay? Because what winds up happening is when you overeat, especially if you're eating sweets and salty things, when you eat them, it releases a chemical in your brain called dopamine. Your brain is addicted to dopamine. So when it gets that shot of dopamine, it's like, oh, this is awesome. I love this stuff. But it very quickly wears off, as does the insulin spike from eating carbohydrate foods and things of that nature. So as that wears off and the dopamine levels drop down, your brain wants more. So it releases other neurochemical signals that are telling you that, hey, you need to eat another piece of cake. You need to have another piece of candy. And that's when you wind up overeating and blowing your diet all out of control. Now, if you have a bad day and you go batshit crazy and you eat a whole bunch of stuff that shouldn't be eating, or if you've been dieting for 6 months and you've been doing pretty well, or even if you've been dieting for 2 or 3 months, you've had a fair amount of weight loss, you've been relatively strict, you're making gains in the gym and all that type of stuff. One bad day is not going to ruin everything that you've done. With that in mind, you still don't want to make a habit of overeating, okay? So if you're going to have a cheat meal, and like I say, a cheat meal, if you want to do a cheat day, that's up to you. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it to my clients, and I'm not going to recommend it to anybody that's watching this, okay? You're better off to have a cheat meal. That way you can say, okay, I'm going to have a bunch of potato chips, or I'm going to have a piece of cake and some ice cream at a birthday party, and I'm going to make sure that I don't eat any other carbohydrates that day, and I'm going to make sure that I don't eat any other junk food that day, and I'm going to decrease the rest of the intake that I have throughout the day so I don't go way overboard on my calories. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. Kind of stumbling over things a little bit because I got a lot of stuff going on that I'm trying to control. All right, let me see what's going on in the comments here. Yes, Kayla, you are absolutely correct. It does shock the metabolism. Like I said, it resets those hormones, and it is important because if you diet for a long period of time without resetting those hormones, it can be detrimental. You need to keep that in mind. Let's see. Well, there's my daughter, Doreen. Hello, Doreen. How are you? Hope everything is well up there with you and the family. Kayla says, I need a meal plan. I'm so unhealthy. Girl, you are not all that unhealthy, okay? We can work on a meal plan, but you are not that unhealthy. Let's just stop that right now. Okay, so let's get into the third topic that I wanted to discuss. And the reason I say this one for last is this probably going to take a little while. Actually, let me take a drink because I know that it's going to take a little bit. Okay. All right. The third and final topic that I want to discuss this evening, and then after that, I'll just kind of open things up. If anybody has any questions about nutrition or anything that we've discussed in this live, go ahead and put them in the comments. Get them started in there now while I'm talking about this one, because I'm going to rant on this one a little bit, and that'll give you some time to put some questions in there, and then we'll answer them when I'm done. So the third and final topic that I want to talk about this evening is that high-fat keto is best for weight loss. Now, this is another one that's a little bit tricky. The fact that high-fat keto in and of itself being best for weight loss, no. If you're eating high-fat on a regular basis, it is not the best thing for weight loss, okay? The reason for that is this. The way the ketogenic diet works is you deplete the carbohydrates out of your body. You switch your body from burning one energy substrate, which is glucose, over to burning the other energy substrate that the body makes, which is ketones. The liver makes ketone bodies from fatty acids and amino acids, okay? Now, if you are eating 70% fat, which is most people hook on to the quote unquote standard ketogenic diet, which is 70% fat, 25% protein, 5% carbohydrates. Here's the problem with that. That's great going into like the first 4 to 6 weeks when you're adapting to it. But if you're eating more, if 70% of your intake every day is fat, and you've got your body to where it's a fat burning machine, it's burning it for fuel, you've got all kinds of energy, and you've got body fat to lose, but you're eating all that fat, which fat do you think that your body's going to burn first? It is easier to burn fat that you have just digested than it is to burn stored fat. So after you become fat adapted, you actually need to dial back the fat, dial up the protein, because you still want your calorie base, and leave your carbs where it is. So for example, most of my clients that I work with, if I start them on a ketogenic protocol, I start them off at 60% fat, 35% protein, and 5% carbohydrates. Now, I'll run that protocol with them for anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, depending on how fast they become adapted to burning fat. Caveat to that, you can speed this process up by using these. I don't know if that's going to focus in real good or not. These are exogenous ketones. It's beta hydroxybutyrate. Okay? Taking exogenous ketones when you are trying to get into ketosis for the first time actually helps you because it primes your cells to realize that they're going to start burning ketones for energy rather than glucose. The other advantage to this is that because you have a steady stream of ketones already in your body, you don't experience as much of the side effects that you hear about of going into ketosis as what people experience that don't supplement with exogenous ketones. Most exogenous ketones like these right here from Ketocrin Nutrition, they are bonded with electrolytes. They're bonded with potassium, they're bonded with sodium, and they're bonded with calcium. These electrolytes help to keep you from going into the state of having keto flu, as they call it, where you have headaches. Some people say that they have brain fog, things of that nature. Okay. So with all that being said, high fat keto is really, really good for the therapeutic application. Okay. The ketogenic diet was originally designed for therapeutic use with children that have epilepsy. Okay. And actually, people that have epilepsy that are on a ketogenic diet, and there are even studies now that are showing that adults that are using ketone bodies for fuel rather than glucose have a reduced amount of seizures. In some cases, the seizures stop altogether. Okay. Now, granted, the studies aren't all complete, and there's conflicting. It's just like anything else when you get into scientific research. One group of people says one thing, one group of people says another. But I can tell you that I'm leaning more towards the fact that even adults that are on a ketogenic diet would experience a significant reduction in seizures simply because it works for kids and it's not that much different at the end of the day. The other thing you need to keep in mind is ketone bodies are much, much smaller as far as the molecules. They're much smaller than glucose molecules. So that means that they permeate the blood-brain barrier better, which means they're more readily available for the brain to use as fuel. So I hope that explains in a little bit of detail about why high-fat keto is not best for weight loss. Keto is a very, very good weight loss tool. But if all you're doing is eating fat, if you are a quote-unquote butter chugger, as we like to call them in the business, the only fat you're going to be burning is the stuff that you're shoving in your mouth. You're not going to burn any body fat, plain and simple. Okay? So that is my 3 topics that I had to discuss this evening. If anybody has any questions, I will hang out for just a couple seconds and wait to see what's going on. Let's see. Apparently my grandson is telling me hi. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Yeah, guys, I'm going to try to do these every week now. I am going to, as long as the system continues to work, I am going to simulcast on both, my T2 Nutrition and Wellness page on Facebook and my YouTube channel. So, I might play around with the days and the times a little bit because I want to find the right day and the right time that works best for everybody where I can get the most engagement. So in the meantime, share it. Okay? Tell everybody what's going on. Tell them I'm going to be doing these weekly shows. If you see that I've scheduled one, share it with friends. Okay? So they know that they can come on here and they can get their questions answered. I can answer your questions in real time. If you ask me a question about nutrition, I can definitely just pick right up and answer them. Like Caleb was saying something about leptin levels, not having nothing to do with metabolism. That is absolutely not true. Leptin is the hormone that tells your body, I'm full, I can stop eating now. So it's things like that this format of live video really works very well to allow me to answer your questions without you having to message me or something like that. And we can have a little fun with it along the way. So that's going to do it for this episode. Be watching. I think I might try maybe like a Saturday next week. I'm not real sure. We'll just have to wait and see how the schedule works out. But just keep watching on my YouTube channel or T2 Nutrition and Wellness. Or just any of my socials. I'll be posting it out there. So until I see you guys again, for those of you who haven't watched me before, I'm going to let you know this is my mantra. Playtime's